Greetings from picturesque Virginia International Raceway, and welcome to Round 5 of the Pirelli GT4 America Championship. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside. Amanda Busick will be patrolling the pit lane for us as we close in on the start of the 5th race of the season in this championship. It is a bit of a delay that we have to announce here at the start of this broadcast, as the single-make Porsche race, or qualifying session rather, that preceded this one, there was an accident there that necessitated a bit of a track cleanup. You can see there the conditions. Well, it is getting hot, but overall a very nice day, especially, Calvin, when you consider the rain that moved through this area not so long ago.
Yeah, washed the track pretty green on Thursday evening, so all of the practice sessions yesterday, everyone was kind of scratching their head as to which way the track was going to evolve, what the balance they had in the race car yesterday was going to work in qualifying this morning in slightly cooler conditions, and ultimately for the race, which is the important one and where the big points are scored. So we'll see what happens here, but it looked like perfect weekend, actually. The weather forecast looks great. It's in the mid-80s ambient right now, so we'll see what this NEWELL Sport can do. They've certainly been the team to beat so far this season.
Well, let's take a look around this Virginia International Raceway and ride on board with Jan Halen with our Porsche track preview.
Hi, my name is Jan Halen, driving for Wright Motorsports here at Virginia International Raceway, and this is the Porsche track preview. As we come onto the front straightaway, ready to start this lap. Front straight, passing start finish here, 6th gear, hard into the brakes at the 3 sign, down the 2nd gear. Big rotation here, using just a little bit of that inside curbing. Back to power, and then onto turn 3, double left-hander. Really tricky corner here on the way in. Lifting a small tap on the brake, and then using all that exit curb here on the outside. Hard onto the brake, 2nd gear into turn 4. Short shift up to 3rd. Turn 5, and then just barely lifting here into turn 6, onto the lower S's. And then a good stretch here, and ready for the famous S's here at Virginia International Raceway. Starting right here at the bottom. Super fun section of the track in these GT3Rs, all flat out, all the way to the top of the hill. Quick stab on the brake, 5th gear. Very fast section of the track, then into Oak Tree, down the 2nd gear, big rotation, getting ready for a good exit, and then back onto the back straightaway, long straightaway. Good opportunity here to overtake into turn 14. Lots of slipstreaming going on. Virginia is a track that really rubbers in, so as the weekend goes on, as long as you don't get too much rain, lots of rubber going down, which makes the track even better. Hard on the brakes here, right at the 50 sign, deep into the brake zone. Down turn 15, and then ready for the roller coaster. Almost flat going over this first curb, down 1 gear, and then onto the front straightaway. And that was 1 lap here at Virginia International Raceway.
A thrilling lap around this 3.27-mile circuit, and Calvin, I think from that onboard, you can see why this place is so revered, often referred to as a roller coaster through the Virginia countryside.
Yes, and it's old school, so it challenges you in every respect, and you're very much on edge. And if you cross over that line, we've already seen today a few offs and some damaged race cars throughout the course of this weekend's activity. So you got to be up on your toes, but elbows will be out as soon as we get that green flag racing.
Already 2 race weekends, 4 races complete here this season. Got the year started out at Sonoma Raceway in California, then a month ago or so ago at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. VIR, a much different track than either of the 2 that we've seen so far, Calvin, but one thing remains the same. Those teams that have had success so far this season, that has rolled into VIR with our class points leaders on their respective class polls for today's race.
Yeah, there seems to be no stop in the NEWELL Sport team. They've won 4 races on the bounce so far this year. They sit on the pole with Matt Travis here for the first round of this weekend's activities. But it's going to be tight when you get that change over to the second driver. There's always a battle that ensues from there. And sitting right alongside them, the championship leader in the silver class is Kenny Murillo. Great lap from Kenny alongside Christian Shimshak, who they share that car together. They've had a couple of wins on the season. They had that technical issue with the drive line at Coda, which has hurt their point score a little bit, but nonetheless off to a strong start.
And the AM class points leaders and pole sitters, John Jesbray and Kevin Conway, very impressive in qualifying. They will roll off 4th overall. For more on the developing stories from the pit lane, let's check in with Amanda.
Well, guys, as you can see the Porsche of Matt Travis over my shoulder, I caught up with Matt prior to the race. He said that this is a track that really rewards commitment, as you can see sitting on that #1 pole, but he thinks this track favors the BMWs. He said it was a horses for the courses on that, but the last we saw of Jason Hart, he was getting out of town in COTA to make it to the birth of his baby. Well, baby Whitney, guys, would show up that Friday after COTA to a proud mom and dad.
That was a fantastic story at Circuit of the Americas. It seemed like the birth could be imminent, and they had some contingency plans in place for Jason to get there, and it sounds like mom and child are doing well, and they held off just long enough, actually plenty of time as it turned out, for Jason to get back there, and great story all around.
It really is, and it was a great story as the starts that this team have had, both in 19 and 20. Amazing to get off to a great start once again here, but they've been pipped at the line the last two championship seasons, last year by Michael Dinan and Robbie Foley, and the year before with the Stephen Cameron Racing BMW. So as Matt alluded to, these BMWs are tough here. They have a good straight line speed, terminal speed here, and it's a good handling car as well. So and there's a lot of them in this field. Great to see Nick Whitmer back here subbing for Lou, who's got some medical issues. We hope to see him back at the next round of the championship. But Nick won here last year at one of the triple header weekends we had here last year at VIR.
Had a great chance to chat with Nick Whitmer earlier this weekend, and he said he ended up filling in for Bryson Lou at COTA. Bryson qualified the car, and that's when the medical issues popped up, and Nick got called in at the last minute. He was there in a coaching capacity, and he told me, in all of my years of racing, I always travel to the track with my gear. The one time I didn't was at COTA, and he had to borrow shoes and a suit and gloves from like 4 different people. He said he looked like this mishmash in terms of his wardrobe, but it worked out well, and he plugged in nicely alongside Tomas Bahia in that ST Racing BMW. Only one ST Racing car here this weekend, Ryan Eversley and Joe Rubo, who have been in the sister car throughout the year. Joe had a prior commitment this weekend, so they couldn't be here, but Ryan Eversley is present, actually, just not racing, helping to coach the HPD GT3 Academy drivers racing in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. As you see, though, cars on track for the first of 2 formation laps here this weekend. That is always the case in GT World Challenge America, but this weekend, in order to make sure that the teams and drivers have a chance to build those tire pressures, get temps in the tires before the start of the race, up to 2 formation laps. And there's a look at the front row starters. 2 different classes, but equal equipment in terms of the BOP. Same spec GT4 cars. It's going to be fun to watch this fight at the front of the field in this first stint, and then in Pirelli GT4 America, at the halfway mark, there is a pit window and a driver change, and oftentimes, Cal, that's when we see the race get turned on its head.
It does. 76 seconds at the minimum stop time. You're allowed a joker 1 second that you can use only once per weekend, so you either use it today or tomorrow, hopefully not twice or not at all. It's certainly given something up to the rest of the field. So we're deep into the championship season now, Ryan. Everyone's kind of well versed on that in terms of getting their software set up so that they don't lose too much time on pit lane. But it's ample time. But as you know, if a driver change starts to go awry, suddenly you can be eating up the clock pretty quickly.
And one of the interesting elements of this, too, especially in the Pro-Am lineups, this is a race where we'll see the pros take over after the pit stop, and the ebb and flow sometimes in those Pro-Am lineups can be really fascinating.
It can. I mean, I think the nice thing for the NEWELL Sport team, and I think the reason they've had so much success, is that Matt Travis just does a great job of almost equaling Jason Hart's time. So it's like, you know, they've got a really good lineup there in terms of the Pro and the Am being relatively close to one another compared to some of the other combinations.
You can see the starting grid flashing across the screen. As you take a look for your favorite driver, let's get another update from Amanda.
Well, as you guys kind of alluded to, Ben Reward had a rough outing at COTA in race 2. All 3 of the cars were taken out, and Nick Galante joins us now. And just the process of getting ready here for VIR, what was that like for you guys?
Unreal. The crew at Bimmer World, they right from when we had the incidents at COTA, they went all hands on deck, sourcing parts, getting the cars back together. I don't know if many teams would have been able to handle what they did, but they're top of the business, and overtime that they put in day and night, and getting those cars ready and back on track. And Dave Simpkins, Jason Marks, and the entire crew just getting the pieces back together. And we're here, and qualifying went pretty good. And so what a story this is going to be if we can really put in some good results here. And we got James Clay out there, we got Bill Oberlin, we got John Miller, we got all the guys on. And we're gonna put in a really pretty good fight.
Well, it's also a home race for Bimmer World, but why do you feel the BMWs might have the advantage here?
Well, we got two good straightaways here. We can stretch our legs. Anytime we can get into sixth gear, it really helps our car. We got some good aero at high speed. The slow speed stuff, we struggle a little bit, but it's a good track for us because we can kind of stretch our legs just a tiny bit down the back straight especially. So that really helps us out a lot.
Great to hear from Nick, who will be co-driving with James Clay, the team principal and the man behind Bimmer World Racing. And I believe that car actually had an accident yesterday in the second practice, and car looked pretty beat up, but great to see that they will be set to start this race. And as he mentioned, qualifying went pretty well, so nice to check that box off this morning and now focus on the race.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a massive effort to get the three cars back on track here for this weekend. We didn't even recognize at the time that a third Bimmer World car was involved in that wreck, or I certainly didn't at COTA, even looking at the replay there. So, yeah, it was a tough day, but James has said it's happened 2 or 3 times before. So that's what happens when you run a very competitive multi-car operation, and they're all close together in terms of lap times and competitiveness. So you just dust yourself off. As their home track, they know it well. Their shop, I think, is over 3 hours away, but they still recognize it as their home circuit and have had so much success here over the years. And they will have a good notebook to know what worked in the kind of slicker conditions that we had here yesterday, and now what looks to be a very dry and high temp day today. What will work on those BMWs.
So many great storylines throughout this 29-car field in Pirelli GT4 America. The field starting to form up into rows of 2 down Madison Avenue. That's the back straightaway at VIR. Lights off on the Lamborghini Urus safety car. Just a few corners away from coming into the start zone. Your strategy if you were starting on pole here, Calvin, how would you approach the green flag?
Well, it's a pretty lengthy run down into turn 1. So even if you get the jump and go early, there's a good chance that someone can draft up on you and still be into a braking position on relatively cold tires down into turn 1. So if I was Travis, I'd try and control it a little bit later. I think certainly for the GT3 field, they've already talked about, you know, controlling that launch point a little bit later down this front straightaway before they're going to throw the green. So they're going to have to wait. They're supposed to maintain the pace of the pace car once that peels off, and wait for that green to really start to hit the loud pedal.
Matt Travis on pole once again for NOLA Sport. That is the Porsche Cayman. To the left of the screen, it is the Murillo Racing Mercedes, the orange Mercedes to his left, coming out of Hogpen, getting ready to take that green flag. Second row, Nick Whitmer and John Jesbray, Tim Barber and Chris Wilson make up row number 3, waiting for the green flag to get round 5 of the championship underway. And they accelerate down the front straightaway. Big move there from Whitmer as Tom Hansing displays the green flag. They fan out 3 wide down the front straightaway into the horseshoe for the first time.
Here we go. Nice start there from our pole sitter. Whitmer there, aggressive to the inside, got the launch initially, and he's made that move there on Murillo. Moves that ST Racing BMW up to the second position, 3 wide. This is where it gets really tricky through this left-hand curve to coexist there.
The BMW's pouncing on Kenny Murillo, drops a couple of spots. One BMW off track. I think that's Tim Barber, who drops a couple of positions, running just a little bit wide, able to find his way back onto the racing surface after dropping a few positions. But a tough start for Kenny Murillo from the outside of the front row, drops back to 4th overall.
I'm not sure, is that McAleer up in the top 4 already? Classic BMW towards the sharp end.
We heard so much optimism out of the BMW camp. It looks like some debris there on the track. Might have been some contact. Looks like carbon fiber to me, but we race on, at least for now, as Whitmer goes bouncing over the curbs. Now immediately comes under attack, able to hold off the challenge, at least for the moment, into Oak Tree.
That is Stephen McAleer. What a start he's had from 8th on the grid up to 3rd, and now pressuring Whitmer for 2nd as they run down Madison Avenue. Travis is just taken off. He's in a different zip code right now.
And here comes the capstone car of Chris Wilson to the outside of the other Mercedes just behind this battle. That's also a top 10 fight. Whitmer in the Starry Night paint scheme on that BMW from ST Racing. We're going to hold off that challenge for the moment. Wilson able to slide to the inside of Murillo. Give him one more spot. Another great start.
Look at them jockeying for position there. You come down Madison Avenue and there's a slight curve to the right, then back to the left. So you're just trying to squeeze your competitor there and not give him the ideal line.
A fast but clean, relatively speaking, opening lap, and just the kind of opening lap Matt Travis would love to have. He's been able to check out from pole as the battle for second heats up once again. Whitmer defending. McAleer going to try and throw it up the inside, and they're rubbing on each other there through the horseshoe.
Yeah, elbows are out. A little bit of argy-bargy potentially. Could have been trading some paint there. Chris Wilson, what a start he's having. That's their backup car. John Allen had a slight off early in the weekend. He makes a big move down into turn 3. Timed that perfectly in the white Mercedes there up to third.
Outstanding move. And that now is the leader in the AM class, Chris Wilson. Talked about John Jesbray and his great qualifying effort. Pole for the AM class, but 4th overall. He dropped down to 11th on that opening lap. That's the Supra that came through the shot just a moment ago. Interesting to see if McAleer, clear of Whitmer, can start to reel in Matt Travis, who holds the overall advantage.
Yeah, and Wilson there in that third position. That's the backup car, and he said we're pretty disappointed. We're about 2 seconds off the pace of our primary car. We unleashed it.
Looks like something might be dangling for the back of Jesbray's car, and I wonder if that might be that debris we saw early in the lap. So if we can get a good tight shot at the back of that Supra, and indeed some bodywork displaced. So some contact, and that might go a ways towards explaining how he dropped back so far on that first lap.
Yeah, qualified 4th, down to 11th early, so he's just got to regroup here. He did a tremendous job in qualifying. The team has done a great job with that Toyota Supra. Had a couple of big global victories in GT4 competition over the last month, so it's really finding its feet.
It's been a great start to that program for Jesbray and his co-driver, Kevin Conway. Jesbray, not much experience. Just 1 year of MX5 Cup racing, and that's it. But straight into the deep end of Pirelli GT4 America. And I think it's safe to say he can swim based on the results we've seen so far. He and Conway, the class leaders in points coming into this weekend. As we look at the leader, Matt Travis. It was a triple header here last year at VIR Calvin. 9th, 4th, and then an overall win to cap off the weekend. After sweeping the opener a year ago at COTA, they've won each of the first 4 races this year and running very stoutly here at VIR.
Well, the Bimmerwell duo of Oberlin and Walker were pretty dominant in the first couple of rounds last year and finished second in the third one from a little bit deeper in the pack. But nonetheless, BMW strong here, but Travis and Hart, they just seem to be the benchmark right now in terms of who you have to beat to get a win.
Number 46 car. James Clay. We talked to Nick Galante, his co-driver, earlier. The team presented James with an interesting gift. James is known for wearing sandals around the paddock, and his new racing shoes have a drawing, an illustration of sandaled feet with even some painted toenails on them. And I was there when they presented him with those shoes, and he got a real kick out of that, and now giving the car a good ride.
Dexter's having a good run here in that gray, blue and yellow Aston Martin. They're going through the frame. That's Otrius, the low-speed corner there. Just got to get the power down. Tires will feel really good right now, but McAleer is closed in on our leader, starting to hound him. He's in the shadows here. This is where that BMW really start to come on strong. Last part of that straightaway. What can Travis do in terms of defending? Oh, a touch there. That was a little squeeze. McAleer's going to go for it. You got to think about the big picture in the championship. Travis tries to hang tough. McAleer very aggressive.
McAleer gets it done, puts the BMW in the overall lead, but you mentioned the big picture. That is not for class position. Travis and Hart, a Pro-Am runner. McAleer and Grahovic. Toby Grahovic, his co-driver there in the silver class. So as far as points are concerned in the championship, that doesn't matter. Nevertheless, no question, these drivers, they want the overall win if they can get it. And in the background, it is the AM class leader. So our class leaders going 1, 2, 3 overall. Chris Wilson on the charge.
Yeah, this is tremendous because I saw him yesterday and he said, well, we're just trying to go over it with the AMG guys here on site because this backup car is just not showing the speed. It's an older car, but it shouldn't be lacking in pace as much as we're seeing right now. So they've certainly turned the taps on in terms of performance. Nice rebound here.
John Allen, the co-driver, brings that connection to the University of Alabama Engineering School. See Big Al, the Alabama mascot, proudly adorning that car. They picked up a sponsor, actually going back to the last round at COTA, K3 Energizing Drink, an all-natural energy drink. Don't need any energy the way they're driving right now. They're looking very strong. Third overall, leaders in the AM category by a handy margin.
What a great piece of racetrack that is up through the climbing S's. Just superb piece of ribbon of asphalt. Really challenges the car and the drivers. And as these tires start to get a little bit more tire change in this 60-minute race, just a mandatory driver change that happens between the 25 and 35-minute mark of this race. Just tire pressures and stuff, but pretty much you're sticking with the same set of Pirelli P0s.
Just behind these two, we were taking a look at, for a moment at least, on the battle for 6th overall, 4th in silver. It currently belongs to Ryan Dexter, but he just lost it to Tim Barber, who's able to sweep his way through, but that fight's not over yet. A little bit of contact between the BMW and the Aston.
Here's the chrome horn there, as our friend PT likes to say.
And just behind, James Clay and John Miller, the two Bimmerworld teammates, watching, waiting, looking for their chance to strike. It's been a good comeback weekend for the Dexter Racing team. They were here testing earlier in the week with that Aston, and they had all kinds of electrical gremlins. Basically didn't turn a lap. It took them several days to finally get their first laps here. It's the first time the team has been to this track, first time either of the Dexter brothers, the drivers, have raced here as well, and they qualified just outside of the top 10 overall, currently running nicely inside and in top 5 in class, holding off a challenge there, and that's actually resulted in a change of position as John Miller was able to pounce and get by the team boss, James Clay.
Nice little battle there between the teammates, but the nice thing about the Dexter team, they've kind of running the WR Racing team with Terry and Davis underneath the same awning, so hopefully they can trade some of the information that those guys were getting with their Aston Martin as they struggle to get the technical issues sorted out.
And when we first saw the Dexter brothers, they were racing in a Ginetta, and it sounds like they should have a second car under their tent as early as Road America, the new spec GT4 Ginetta. They were trying really hard to make the debut here because Ginetta's U.S. headquarters are very close to VIR. Just couldn't quite get it done, but that'll be an extra car on the grid when we get to the next round of the championship. But here comes John Miller on the prowl, one of the best, I'd say, underrated GT drivers in North America, but over the last couple of years, maybe going and dispensing of that underrated moniker a little bit.
Yeah, he's a quality guy, just got a lot of speed, a lot of experience, and he's very busy. I mean, he's very popular because of what he brings to the table in terms of mentoring young drivers, being a great co-driver, and his technical prowess with the cars is really good as well. So he's one guy you want behind the wheel.
Whitmer under attack from Tim Barber now. This is for 4th and 5th overall, but 2nd and 3rd in silver. Goodness, we're only not even 10 minutes into this race, but there's been so much to try and keep tabs on. Up front, it's worth noting that McAleer still has the lead, and behind now, we look at this battle back on again between Dexter and Miller.
Yeah, Miller was barely hanging on through Hogpen. I just see as we cut away with the cameras there, he's really wide coming through that and has allowed Dexter to come back at him.
Into the horseshoe side by side, and this is a part of the track you can do this, and now the track's going to be coming back to Miller here with this couple of left-handers.
Yeah, but watch Clay. He's going to try and slide down the inside there because it kind of takes that line away from him as they turn in for turn 3 apex. Now Clay tries to surprise him. The problem with that is if it goes wrong, you're going to turn someone and pivot them right at the critical part of turn 4.
Really clean racing. Ryan Dexter, younger guy, not a ton of racing experience at the pro level. They've not put a full season together previously. Contrast that with the extreme experience of James Clay, who's going to be putting all of his years of racing experience here on his home track especially to use as he tries to make his way past that Aston.
Just watching that Aston, he's really loose coming up through these high-speed S's on the previous lap. It's a little bit more comfortable this time, so maybe the tire pressures and temps are coming to him a little bit as we start to get through here, lap 6 in this race.
Race Vision powered by AWS, your top overall speeds. John Miller in that BMW, Tim Barber in a BMW, Tom Capizzi in a BMW. Sensing a trend here, Calvin.
Yeah, look at the speeds, close to 160 miles an hour in a GT4 car. I mean, that is getting with the program.
Where is the top speed found around this track?
Right there, right as just before they hit the brake pedal for this turn 14.
John Miller, you were talking about how busy he is. He and also his co-driver Chandler Hall James Clay, many of the Bimmer World crew, they were supposed to be at the Nürburgring 24 this weekend. Some dates got shifted around, and that became an impossibility. John actually was not going to be driving with that group. He was going to be running in a Porsche Cup car for a different team. But he's a man in high demand when it comes to the Nürburgring. He's got a lot of experience, actually, racing over there in recent years.
Look at Dexter there dancing around as he hits the brake pedal there, trying to get it well down. Clay, really, I think the balance is a little bit off, so they'll probably have a chance to adjust that a little bit with the tire pressures, but more importantly, adjustment tonight, I would think, on the setup on the Aston Martin for tomorrow. But right now, Wilson, he's just really trying to gap as far as he can the next AM in this lineup, which is Jezbray down in the 10th position.
That is Sam Owen in the NOLA Sport car that he shares with Sean Gibbons, and that's been a pretty good pairing this year at the AM class. It's Travis now really under attack from Wilson. A little twitch out of that Cayman, and here comes Wilson smelling blood in the water.
Yeah, and again, for Travis, he has to think big picture. I think Wilson's going to get to the inside here for turn 4. Travis is going to let him have it and just get on his way. You don't want to just be fighting each other, lose time overall, just let him go.
Well, and you talked about, for Wilson, trying to build that gap to the next AM runner. Same is true for Travis, because the next Pro-Am runner is just ahead of second place in AM. That is James Clay now, running back in 9th. So a pretty hefty gap there from Travis back to his closest class competitor, and that maybe helps that calculus a little bit. It's easier to not put up a huge fight when you know you've got that gap.
Yeah, it's about 6.5 seconds back there to James Clay. So he's still in great shape, and Jason's going to be chomping at the bit to get their 5th win of the year and the first with the new baby on board.
It's nice to see the rebound here from Kenny Murillo. Started on the outside of the front row and just didn't get a good jump. We saw Whitmer get that great jump. He has subsequently fallen back to 5th, by the way. But Murillo started to come back through the field in the orange Mercedes, and he's now the next one who's going to take a crack at Matt Travis.
So easy to happen here on that first half lap here at VIR, Ryan, because, you know, Whitmer was pretty aggressive there. They're going side by side through those first couple of corners, and you just get out of your rhythm. It's hard to kind of slot back in and find your line and get out of harm's way. So, but Kenny's a smart young driver, very smart man in general. Works as an engineer on that race team as well for his dad.
His dad, a very good racer in his own right, and has gone into team ownership. And that team, think about what Matt Fosnot did several years ago with Christian Shimshak, who is co-driving with Kenny. It's been a really potent team. They ran a couple of cars, actually, earlier this season. They had a second car at Cayman, down to a single car here this weekend as we take a look at a battle between an Aston, a KTM, and a Mercedes, and this is why you love GT4 racing. Look how different these 3 cars are.
Yeah, it's a real melting pot of machinery, and a big announcement that 71 car is going to compete for the full season. And Rider Engineering, where these cars are really developed over in Germany, are now actually running this car for the race weekends. The prep is still done by John Mueller and Muellerize, but actually at the weekends, more input from the Rider Engineering group.
Taking a look here at Stephen McAleer driving and leading at the moment. His co-driver is with Amanda.
Well, Toby, when the overtake happened in the hog pen, what was the reaction here at Classic?
It's pretty exciting to see Stephen go from 8th to 1st in the first couple of laps. He's doing an awesome job. The crew did an amazing job with making changes after qualifying, with the car going faster. So looking forward to getting in the car in a little bit here.
With the driver change coming up, how important is it to make sure to stay ahead of that NOLA Sport car?
Oh yeah, it's key to staying in the lead. You need to make it perfect and get out and don't go faster than the time limit. So
thank you, Toby.
Thanks.
Toby Grahovic and Stephen McAleer paired up for the first time of the season in the last round at Circuit of the Americas. Got a 3rd place and 2nd place finish in those 2 races. Toby had been running in the TC class back at Sonoma, and the way it was explained to me at COTA was they thought that would probably be just a one-off at their home track between the 2 of them, but maybe because you got a couple of podiums there, close to a win in one of them, there was incentive to keep it going.
Yeah, well, I think it got everyone's attention when they suddenly saw that lineup with McAleer joining Toby in that car, and case in point, he's now leading in a very strong opening stanza from, you know, not a great qualifying run for Stevenson. I'm not sure what issues they had in qualifying this morning, but nonetheless, he's bounced back, got the car to the front, and building up a nice lead at the moment. Like 2.6 seconds.
Yeah, 36-year-old from Scotland, Stephen McAleer, but he's been in the States seeking out a pro racing career for quite a while and has done a nice job of it. He has a stake in an MX-5 Cup team, along with Chad McCumbee.
But I think he's really used the opportunity well. He's created a great network through his coaching business and network, and ultimately has put him behind the wheel of a race car. And whenever he gets behind, there's very few that are faster out there, and he just takes it to the front, it seems.
Well, to your point, he's a busy guy. This is what he's done so far this year. He ran at the 24 Hours of Daytona in an LMP3 car. He's done some other LMP3 racing for a different team. He's doing this with Classic BMW. And he is he's done some Lamborghini Super Trofeo racing as well. So that speaks to his ability to network, and then when the opportunity arises to get plugged into a car, it's plug and play. But for the moment, let's change our focus to this, which is the fight here for 3rd overall, and Kenny Murillo is on a charge.
Yeah, Travis's car nosed it through the S's and then through 11 and 12, Oak Tree Corner, coming onto that back straightaway. Car seems to be understeering quite a bit, so not sure if he's just having a bad lap and not hitting his marks, or whether the balance has gone away a little bit.
Let's take a close look at that car on this lap. But you're right, I mean, it doesn't look totally secure at the rear. We'll see what Murillo can do as they come through Hogpen here to start another lap. We are, by the way, closing in on that mandatory pit stop window, so we'll keep an eye on that as we watch this battle for the final position of the overall podium.
And it's not always the leaders that have that first opportunity to pit. It's really just down to the clock and how it hits with traffic. So once you see 35 minutes to go in this race, this is a big late move.
Credit to Tim Barber for seeing that coming, because I think you're right, that did come pretty late in the brake zone. John Miller flashing those headlights. He'd like to get one more spot before he turns over to Chandler Hull, who's his young co-driver. Barber a little bit loose there, very defensive.
Almost a touch. Lucky he didn't get turned there as they're deep on the brakes. Miller tried to be respectful, saw the opportunity, tried to get momentum back, and Barber pretty defensive there going into turn 4.
That is for class position as well. 3rd in silver. Cole Corallo taking over from Tim Barber when they make their stop. And as mentioned, Chandler Hull will replace John Miller. 2 young guys finding their footing in the sport. And Chandler Hull in particular has been a very busy man over the last couple of years with ambitious programs here in the States and in Europe. Ran the Asian Le Mans Series this year with John Miller, getting a ton of seat time because he's got big-time aspirations.
He does. He's very talented. He's trying to fast-track that learning curve a little bit by entertaining a lot of different programs, which is great. I mean, as long as you don't get too confused, but running pretty similar machinery, even though he's doing it on a global footprint.
Yeah, mostly GT4 in the BMW M4 GT4. The Asian Le Mans program was in a GT3 spec BMW for the Valkenhorst team, and it's a great team to get linked up with if you can, and I think leaning on John Miller's connections a little bit to make some of that stuff happen.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about earlier in terms of great mentor and coach and co-driver John Miller is, and he's got the experience, as you said. He's got the contacts to be able to open some doors for Chandler to get in some of these race cars.
Yeah, John Miller, 3rd in the silver class last year, driving with Samantha Tan, won the Sprint X West Pro-Am Championship with Harry Gottsacker back in 2019, and amazingly, that was his first championship in cars, which I could not believe when he told me. He's been close, he's done a lot of racing, finally put it all together that year.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Bill Oblum will be jumping behind the wheel here shortly. So much success. I think it's about 500 runs with BMWs over the years. Tons of victories, winning as driver in sports car competition here in North America. But I think that dates back to like 2004 or something, since he last won a championship.
Wow.
You know, it's just crazy that you can have so much success, and it just really outlines how difficult it is to be that complete.
McAleer, Wilson, Murillo has made his way around Travis now and into 3rd overall. Then we drop back to this fight that is just behind Travis. So Tim Barber, John Miller. We saw Miller taking a lunge a few moments ago back there in NASCAR Bend, and then left hook. That's turns 3 and 4. here into Oak Tree. Miller seems to have the pace, but Barber's a veteran, and he's driven a lot of different race cars. He and Corallo have made a very good team over the last year and a half.
Yeah, and there's obviously some strategy here in terms of when you're going to elect to take that pit stop. It opens up probably by the time they get to pit in this lap. But with their experience behind the wheel, these two teams, for example, may elect to keep these drivers out a little bit longer into this 10-minute window.
Oh, here comes Miller.
Yeah, I got a feeling if they do stay out for 10 minutes, we may see some argy-bargy here to decide that track position.
If you're John Miller, how frustrating is it to know you've got the faster car, but you just can't find that way by?
Well, he's peeling. No, he's not. They are staying out. That's what I suspect. I think Travis may have hit pit lane.
He did. So the first strategy dice roll comes into play here. Usually we see this NOLA Sport team out of the Pro-Am ranks willing to run deeper into the window than most because, as you mentioned, Travis, his pace relative to Hart, the Pro and the Pro-Am lineup aren't that far off, but this time electing to come in and make that swap early.
And now it's all about, it's really just down to execution. It's all about not panicking. Everything should be routine, smooth. They've done it a million times before, and just trying to minimize any loss with that minimum pit stop time of 76 seconds from pit in to pit out with the driver change and everything else. Derek DeBoer jumping out, TRG trying to get on the rebound. Not the best of starts to their championship season, but Spencer Pumpelly is a master around this circuit.
I was going to say, a bit surprised we haven't seen them feature a bit more prominently just because of how much success Spencer has had at this track. Even if the results don't necessarily bear it out, I remember in 2019, before some misfortune, he was dominating a couple of races and ultimately dropped out of those, but very, very fast around this track. Look at the crossbow up there in at a strange angle.
It's going to be tough for Oberlin to get out of his pit box here.
Pit stop done for the TRG guys. Good opening stint from Derek DeBoer. This is Bill Oberlin.
This could be tricky. Yeah, I was wondering where that Porsche was going to come out from the left side of Oberlin there, having just been released, as he has to sort of like navigate his way around.
Jason Hart taking over from Matt Travis. First car to hit pit lane in this sequence, and we'll see what that does, where he cycles out. The pit window will remain open until there are 25 minutes left on the clock. At that point, you must at least be in pit lane, if not having already completed your service, or else there will be a penalty. And once in the pit lane, a minimum time elapsed is in order.
Yeah, and in terms of the strategy here, you know, teams will know, and sometimes it will change weekend to weekend, who is the stronger driver in your car. So if you've got a stronger driver in terms of pace and they started the race, keep them in as long as possible, maximize that advantage that they have. Typically with the Pro-Am pairing, you want to get your Pro in early, which will be the second driver in this first race of the weekend. So that's where you see guys like Travis turning over Jason Hart. And certainly we saw Walker into Bill Oberlin, who they're going for their third victory here over the last 12 months.
Murillo and Jesbray are in. This is a look at the Murillo car. Christian Shimshak will be taking over. Paul Terry also in. He and Brandon Davis sharing that Aston.
There's ample time here. Essentially, they've got about 50 seconds to get this driver change done. It's about 25 seconds coming down pit lane at 50 miles per hour. And then the rest of that 76 seconds is just eaten up with maybe checking tire pressures and getting the driver change done. So normally there's a good 10-15 seconds to spare there, and then you're just looking at the stopwatch.
Based on the times that we've seen so far, Calvin, anybody jump out as doing an exceptionally good job in the pit lane?
Well, yeah, Stephen Cameron, 76.1, so that's good without using up the joker. Kenny Murillo, 75.5, so they've used that joker up. They're underneath the minimum, so we see Dexter Car in trouble again. Maybe a continuation of these technical issues that you mentioned earlier, Ryan.
Yeah, stopped on track there. And like we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, they were telling me just some electrical gremlins that they spent days trying to diagnose, and they're new to this car this year, stepping up to the Aston Martin, and it's taken them a little bit.
This is where it can get quirky. If you should have to go full course yellow, the stewards really don't want to do that because it really throws a bit of a curveball in terms of the strategy with teams that have pitted and those that have not. So they'll try and observe that car, communicate with the team to see if there's a chance that it can move under its own power.
So Christian Shimshak in this car now. A moment ago you saw the pit stand, Ken Murillo on the left. It was Kenny Murillo in the middle.
When you talk about Ken Murillo, Bimmer World not having the day they're looking for. That's 36. That's James Clay's car.
Saw him very much in the thick of the fight. Again, this is a car that had to be repaired after a crash yesterday.
Yeah. Don't think they've been in the pits yet. I don't see them on the screen in terms of showing they had a pit stop. Looks like he just suddenly lost power. Something was broken. You know, you have to wonder when you have a big hit what that shakes loose. There's some little connector you didn't quite see last night when you're kind of trying to go through the car with a fine-tooth comb, and suddenly under race conditions it's critical.
Heartbreaking to see that, especially after all of the frustrations at Circuit of the Americas. I think Amanda mentioned it off the top of the show, but if you're just joining us, in that second race of the weekend, they lost 3 cars in one accident, in one corner. And believe it or not, James Clay said it's actually the 3rd time that's happened to that team in their lengthy history. And he rated that one as just the 2nd worst of the 3. So I guess that's finding a silver lining.
Yep.
But unfortunately not going to have the result they're looking for with the brand new shoes here today. Grahovic and McAleer. What a great stint that was from Steven to start the race, charging from 8th on the grid, got himself up into podium contention in a lap, and next thing you know, he was up there challenging for the overall lead.
I think he's still out there. I don't think they've pitted yet, Ryan, so I think that Stephen McAleer's still out, and you probably need to get in here this lap. They're under pretty close to try and squeeze another lap and a half out with the time on the clock right now. 28 minutes. Yeah, I think they're going to have to come this time.
23 minutes remaining, you're right. It is McAleer, Wilson, Barber, the top 3 as they run, and John Miller and Nick Whitmer completing the top 5. And not a surprise to see these teams going with this strategy, optimizing their starting driver. Each of them very, very accomplished and capable of setting a really good pace here, trying to build that gap. And then if you do your job correctly in the pit lane, you can maintain following the round of pit stops.
I mean, Chris Wilson, what's the guy, like 80 years old, right? Kidding.
Calvin said it, not me, Chris.
But just amazing. He's such a fun character, great to have him in our paddock, and his speed is amazing behind the wheel of that 16 Capstone racing machine. He's only 2.5 seconds back of McAleer here, which we may see those guys hit pit lane this time.
53 years old is the answer to your question. From Palmer Lake, Colorado. Has one of the best attitudes of anybody you'll find in the paddock. Always having a great time, and you plug him in and he goes fast. Doesn't matter what he's driving. As we do see now, McAleer making that move to the pit lane.
He could have probably squeaked it, but if you have any delay, a quick spin, then you're outside, so it's really not worth the risk in terms of doing an extra lap.
Yep, so we'll see how the changeover goes. Teams... You see the big donut on the door. This car has been in the wars so far. Teams can check tire pressure. They can bleed a little bit of tire pressure, but other than that, it's just this driver change.
That might have been with Whitmer. Remember them when
yes.
Whitmer went side by side down in turn 2.
You do have the one crew member able to assist in the driver change as well. There's Chris Wilson climbing out. John Allen climbing aboard the Capstone Racing Mercedes.
Barber, another nice, impressive performance there. You can see teams will just do a quick check of the tires, bleed them down if they've peaked a little bit. Hopefully your co-driver left you some rubber to go to work with.
What is that conversation like if they don't at dinner tonight? Because you know they get to return the favor tomorrow.
That's right.
The second driver today will start tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let's see what this time's out to be. McAleer to Grahovic out of the pits. Pretty close. John Allen, Chris Wilson driver change also right there. Really quick work by the crew for Tim Barber and Cole Corallo as well.
There we see the overlap. There's Shimshak side by side with John Allen, so that will be track position, not class position. Silver car versus an AM. And both those Magler and Wilson identical pit stops there, 76.9, so left about 9/10 on the table. That's not too bad. I think if you get beyond a second and a half, you're really wasting time to your competitors.
Shimshak able to make that spot, and it looks like that should be the car up ahead that they're chasing, with Grahovic now driving. It's a decent chance that is, when it all shakes out, going to be the fight for the lead. Here is Jason Hart now. He's got John Allen in his crosshairs.
Yeah, so Pro-Am, the Pro and the Pro-Am pairing up against an AM here, so I think they'll just slide by John there. And that's the crossover between kind of the undercut. In terms of pitting a little bit early, even though they're not changing tires, it's more from a strategy position in terms of what you want to do with your driver pairing there. So I think this will put Hart up into the top 4 possibly.
Does seem right. We'll have a better sense when they come around the next time. And timing and scoring updates. Corallo able to make the pass there on Allen as well. He's a sports business student at Arizona State University from nearby Scottsdale. And he and Tim Barber have proven to be a nice pairing. Another case of a young driver able to learn at the foot of a master. Tim Barber with a great deal of experience and a lot of lessons to impart.
And that's what's cool about this championship, just watching some of these young drivers evolve over a season or two. Even, like AM drivers like Sean Quinlan, who won the championship with Greg Leofouge a couple of years ago, just watching him, more of a businessman, not a young racer, a little bit later in life, very established in the business world. And just seeing their progress is just remarkable. It's kind of fun just to see it all happen in front of you over the course of a couple of years.
So Toby Grahovic does lead Christian Shimshak by 2.6 seconds. Then it is Jason Hart running in third, but leading in Pro-Am. They have won every race so far this season, trying to keep that streak alive. Dropping behind that, Cole Corallo made the pass on John Allen a few moments ago. That brought him up to 4th overall, but 3rd in silver. Chandler Hull, that's the BMW you look at right there, is now up into 5th, but 4th overall, chasing Corallo for that final podium position in class. Then it is your AM leader, John Allen. Brandon Davis has come up towards the front, taking over for Paul Terry, who must have had a nice stint to put them in this position. He just made a pass on Allen also. Then Leofouge, Conway, Pompelli, your top 10.
Yeah, and I think for Jason Hart, that's the person he's focused on right now, is Brandon Davis, 7th overall, 2nd in Pro-Am, and he sits about 8 seconds back. So it's a really nice 8-second lead that they have for the Pro-Am class lead, with Jason Hart sitting in 3rd on the road.
And when I say that he and Matt Travis have won every race, they've won overall every race. 4 for 4 to start the season. They've built a 58-point cushion through 4 races on 2nd place in the championship. And the overall doesn't really factor into the championship when we're talking about chasing the Pro-Am title, but I'm certain we're going to see Jason Hart insert himself into this conversation before it's all said and done. I'm really interested to see what the timing is at the line between Grahovic and Shimshak, because to the eye, it looks like Christian's been able to take a bit out of that gap.
He has a second. 1 second on that lap. So Grahovic's opening lap of 57.4, Shimshak a 56.4, and Hart about the same. So it looks like Shimshak is honing in on the lead. Hart is kind of coming in tandem with him, but not really closing in on Christian. So this Murillo racing car could be the car to beat here this afternoon.
Grahovic and McAleer, they missed the first round at Sonoma, didn't drive as a pairing there, so they probably aren't thinking championship, but Shimshak and Murillo are. They are the points leaders by 4 coming into this weekend, and that's despite not being classified after starting on pole in race 1 at Circuit of the Americas. They bounced back and won race 2, their 2nd win of the season, also had a 2nd place finish in the first race of the year at Sonoma. All of these results in class, but their lead is pretty narrow, and there's a big gap in points between what you get paid for 1st and 2nd, and that's what he's chasing there, because it's also a class lead battle that we're talking about there. Let's go back down to Amanda.
Well, guys, Chris Wilson has had a smile on his face since I got over here. And when you go back to your lap, and they're still cheering over here, where, from your opinion, why did you gain so much advantage in that Mercedes?
As Calvin said, I'm not 80. I'm 82, Calvin. So get it right when you're going to talk, you know. Yeah, I mean, the Mercedes handles great. So the team always does a great job. Capstone Motorsport, new team this year. They're doing a great job. The Mercedes just works so well that I think that's our advantage. It's easy on tires, and we're able to get after it.
Well, you said you were looking for that overall podium. Was there anything you were able to relate to John?
Go like hell. Yeah. That's about it. He is. It's awesome.
Thank you, Chris.
Good advice for sure. And yeah, John's dropping down the overall order, but that's not what he's here to do. He's here to win in class and has a nice cushion over Kevin Conway, who runs in 12th overall, but second in AM. Allen right now 7th overall, so does have a little bit of a buffer in between where he runs and where that Super runs. And that Super might be a bit damaged as well after we saw some contact in the opening lap that John Jesbray was on the receiving end of that seemed to have knocked away some body work on that car.
Yeah, a lot of time on the board, though. 19 minutes to go here. So for John Allen, he needs to find a rhythm, find the lap time that will get him to the finish with the gap that he has to work with. But for Conway, his team will be egging him on because he is getting closer. I think the gap now is under 4 seconds to the lead in AM.
Brandon Davis made a pass on Chandler Hull for 5th overall. That's not for class, but it does bring second place in Pro-Am just that little bit closer than to Jason Hart, who runs 3rd overall. The gap between the two is about 9 seconds at the moment. And still 18 minutes left in this race. This, though, is the battle for the lead, exactly, down Madison Avenue, Cal.
Yeah, Shimshak's been about a second a lap quicker than Toby here. So he's got the pace, but, you know, with the BMW very strong in this sector here towards the end of that Madison Avenue, it should stretch the lead, even though the Mercedes is in the draft a little bit. But he's really going to have to hang on through sectors 1 and 2 when we get down into turn 1. A lot of experience, though, on board there with Toby Grahovic. Multiple race winner, championship winner. But to hang on here today to get that silver and overall win, he's got his work cut out with that very fast AMG Mercedes behind him.
Shimshak only made 2 starts last year. He and Matt Fosnot did the opening round at COTA, and they've been dormant until this year. And pairing up with Kenny Murillo, what a great pairing it's been. Looked like he had a run, but then you can see the horsepower of that BMW. But here comes Shimshak, throwing it up the inside into turn 1. The door slammed shut by Toby Grahovic.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's going to be close enough. We talk about the BMW's pace down the end of these straightaways, but Christian thought it's time to go. He's got a lot of time on the board, but you never know in these races. You can't just sit there and think, oh, got 10 more minutes to work with or whatever, and you get a yellow. Oh, big twitch there by Toby. Christian down to the inside. Side by side through 4. Can they make it work?
Grahovic able to hold off Christian Shimshak.
Look at Hart is coming. These two guys are really working it out in terms of staying clean, but at the same time losing lap time. That has allowed Jason Hart to close in.
And close in he has. He is there from 2.7 seconds back at the line. That's what going side by side will do. It brings the NOLA Sport Cayman right into this fight.
Well, Toby almost parked it on the exit of turn 5 there in terms of the speed that he was able to ultimately roll through the corner with fighting with Christian. So Jason, again, he's got to think about the big picture in the Pro-Am class lead. You know that he'd love to get that overall win and continue that streak, but nonetheless, you can't afford to throw it all away.
Let's go down to Amanda, who's got an interested spectator in Kenny Murillo alongside.
Oh, and he is watching along as this battle goes down. In your opinion, on VIR, where would you recommend Shimshak to make this pass?
Yeah, it's probably going to be in turn 3 into 4. It's just probably the easiest part to pass. And Mercedes is really strong through that first sector. The BMW's got a lot of power, so you know, it's a little difficult when the guy ahead of you can make a lot of mistakes and just drive away. But I know Christian can be patient about it and, you know, be methodical and do what's right.
You guys are coming into the weekend 4 points ahead of Dexter in the silver class. Are you paying attention to points at this point?
No, we're not. We're here to win overall, and I think, you know, points will just come in the end. So, you know, that's our main goal. We're going to focus on ourselves and hope for good points. And, you know, got a really good support system with Murillo Racing, Mercedes, Pirelli, and especially my mother. She's turning 50. So happy birthday, Mom. But no, we're just incredibly happy to be here at VIR racing the Mercedes. It's going to come true.
Entering that part of the track, he thought the move could be made, Cal.
This is it, turns 3 to 4. This is where that Mercedes really closes in on Toby Grahovic. And now it's pretty much one line unless you have a big problem up through this sector. And it's not easy in these cars, particularly late in the tire stint. But nonetheless, it'll be tough for Shimshak to make a move. Jason Hart just sitting in the shadows of these two leaders.
Final 15 minutes. This is 1, 2, 3 overall, all in the same camera shot. Toby Grahovic, Christian Shimshak, Jason Hart. So much experience in this trio.
I think with Toby, he's recognized over the last couple of seasons that if he's a bit more aggressive, more race wins will come his way, and he was definitely fighting and maintain that lead with Christian Shimshak rather than just letting him have it.
Oh, I thought the same thing. As Shimshak got up to the inside of him, maybe last year we would have seen Toby relent a little bit, but absolutely not having it here today, which is great to see. Look at that BMW stretching its legs, and Mercedes might be coming under threat. Jason Hart on the attack now.
Yeah, and I think for Shimshak, he just wants to get through here really cleanly. He should close in on the lead just a little bit, stay close enough so that as he gets down to that turn 1 brake zone, he can really start to try and figure out the chess match of where he can make a move. Good run there through Hogpen for Shimshak.
And he's staying in the slipstream and stay close enough. We saw him make that lunge into 1 a couple of laps ago.
You see that car length right there is where that BMW's power comes into play. Just stretches at about a car length, but Mercedes is really good on the brakes. Porsche is too. And right now, he's a little bit closer, I feel, than he was the last lap. So when you go through 3 and 4, maybe he can mirror his sentiments from his teammate in terms of making that pass.
Grahovic in the BMW. Shimshak
sitting back. He's trying to set him up here. He's trying to roll speed here through turn 3.
Oh, big slide from Grahovic. Murillo to the inside. Make that Shimshak to the inside, and he makes the pass stick. Oh, looked like that back end just stepped out on Toby, and there's no rest for him now because here's Jason Hart arriving on the scene.
Yeah, Toby is just trying to squeeze a little bit more out of that BMW. Got to the power with a little bit of steering input, just lost the rear end momentarily, and that gave the launch for Shimshak to get to the inside. No defending that one.
This is a tough position to be in if you're Hart because, yeah, you'd like to make these passes, but it doesn't matter for your championship. Let's see if Grahovic, though, can close in. We're about to get into the Madison Avenue area where the BMW is so strong in a straight line. This fight might not be over yet.
He's just struggling there. I think the balance has gone away from him a little bit, so loses a bit of time coming off, but here he comes. He'll certainly inch up closer, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to make a move.
Jason Hart in the background flashing those headlights, doing anything he can to get into the head of Toby Grahovic, who does close in, shows the nose ever so slightly, then tucks back in line. Christian Shimshak, who took the lead on this lap in the Murillo Racing Mercedes, now through a section of the track where that Mercedes is really strong.
Yeah, it's getting the power down a little bit better than the BMW there and just gaps him again. Shimshak's really good through this final corner. And again, you'll just see that gap kind of gradually come down a little bit, but not enough, I don't think, for Toby to be in with a shot at making a move.
How about this, though? Is Jason Hart close enough? There in the slipstream, taking a peek up the inside. Gets to the flank, but has to back out of it. Grahovic, though, opens that inside lane up. He'll have the left-hand inside lane for the next sequence of corners.
Yeah, Jason's just trying to be so careful here, not get himself stuck in a situation he can't get out of and end up with some damage to the race car.
Here comes Hart taking a peek, trying to make the same move that Shimshak made 1 lap earlier. Shimshak escaping up in front of these two as they battle for second overall.
Yeah, Grahovic's just hanging on right now. The car really is not working very well in these late stages. He's just handling has gone away on him. And that allows Shimshak to just really hit everyone.
Well, here's where the urgency is coming from because Brandon Davis is starting to close in a little bit on Hart, who leads in Pro-Am, and watching from the pit lane is the man who had the first stint in this Cayman, Matt Travis.
Well, Matt, you told us before the race that this is a racetrack that rewards commitment. in this situation, are you committed to the class win or to the overall win?
Overalls are always the goal, but we would take a class win. We're exceeding our own expectations right now. Just hoping he can hang on to it. Just so exciting to watch. We got, 10 to go? Just real quick, I want to say hello to my smoking hot wife, Jennifer, Stone Cold Fox. Married 17 years today, so happy anniversary, hon.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Always a smile on that man's face as well. He's a bit of a jokester, but very serious about his racing, and you saw that in his opening stint. Now it's Jason Hart's turn behind the wheel, and he is as close as can be coming onto the front straightaway.
I got a feeling he might nip around Toby here before the checkered flag this afternoon.
Grahovic running second now, had the lead briefly. Shimshak took it away a few laps ago. Here comes Jason Hart up the inside. Yeah. Grahovic looks content to relent, but as I say that, fights back around the outside. Ultimately not enough for that Porsche.
Yeah, now he gets into a sector where this Porsche is going to be a little bit quicker, so I think this will allow Jason to gap him enough before they get to Madison Avenue for Toby to retire.
But on that last lap, Brandon Davis, fourth overall, second in Pro-Am, was nearly 2 seconds faster than Grahovic and Hart. I think that's why Hart felt like he needed to make that move.
Yeah, and that team's pretty smart. They got a lot of really savvy people on board there to give Jason that information in terms of saying, okay, you're okay to just sit there for now. No, you're really made to try and make a move without taking any risk.
Lap traffic factoring into this. That's Damon Surgison up ahead. That's going to ball cart a little bit. He takes a peek to the inside.
That was really tight.
Not a great place to catch lap traffic. Hart's able to clear him. Can Grahovic get by?
Yeah, I think Jason really tried to be super patient there, but suddenly Toby is right on his rear bumper again. And here's Davis. So a gap between first and second in the Pro-Am class is now down to probably a couple of seconds between them.
And this is Kevin Conway, who's dropped back down to 14th in the overall running order, but is now the leader in AM because John Allen has dropped even further back. In fact, Allen now back to third in the AM running order.
Wickstrom up to second, working on the A car.
Yeah, that's the Random Vandals car. Wickstrom filling in this weekend for Al Carter. Speedy recovery to you, Al. Injury suffered while running, couldn't make it here this weekend. Normally drives alongside Paul Sparta. Expect to have him back, though, in time for Road America.
Irony there, right? When you're training to be fitter and you injure yourself training to be fitter.
Yeah, he told me it was a high ankle sprain, and it actually, the torsion of the sprain actually caused a small fracture in his leg bone, which sounds pretty painful, to say the least, but according to the text message, at least in pretty good spirits, and I'm sure cheering on the team, which is now running in second in AM, 20th overall. Back to Brandon Davis, though, here. This is fourth overall, but second in Pro-Am. Needs to track down Jason Hart for that final position in the class, and has 7.5 minutes to do so.
And it's not just for the position on the road, it's also in the championship. I mean, the NEWELL Sport team have a massive lead right now. 58 points after sweeping the board, 100 points on the board already this season. But the team that are immediately behind them is that Brandon Davis, Paul Terry machine.
Yep, WR Racing, best result of the season so far in class. Second place in race 2 at Sonoma. Finished 5th in race 1 there. Then at Coda, an 8th and a 5th. That's what's allowed the NEWELL Sport guys to pull that gap in the points because they've won every race. So built that 58-point lead, but this is the kind of result that Terry and Davis need to stay in that hunt, because as we've seen, and I know Matt's not going to like me reminding him of this again, but they did get out to huge points leads each of the last 2 seasons and have come up short in the Ultimate Championship.
Brandon Davis looking forward at the leader. He's also looking in his rearview mirror because Greg Leafuge has been on a charge. Has set the fastest lap of the race at 1:55.4, and he's not that far back, about 1.5 seconds to that second position in the Pro-Am class.
Cole Corallo here, currently 6th. Just lost his spot in the overall order to Greg Leafuge, who's now up to 3rd in Pro-Am. Corallo 3rd in silver. He's got the Pro-Am runner Spencer Pumpelly, another Pro-Am car in Bill Oberlin. John Capestro Dubets also right in line behind. This is a look at Pumpelly now making his way through the lap traffic.
And Aublin should have been in the picture. I don't see him, so I'm not sure if Aublin had an issue on that last lap. He was only 3/10 behind Pompelli the previous lap, and now he's dropped a position, so maybe there was an attempt for a pass on Spencer that didn't work out.
I can see him at the back of the shot a moment ago, right behind Capestra Dubets. To swap positions. That is for 5th and 6th in the Pro-Am, 8th and 9th overall. 5.5 minutes remaining. Still Christian Shimshak out in front. Jason Hart right now leading in Pro-Am, but 2nd overall. Has a nice healthy gap to Brandon Davis, who has made his way around Toby Grahovic. So the path is clear, but only 5 minutes to work with for Brandon Davis, who was the 2009 World Challenge GT class champion.
Yeah, and he's running lap times about 3/4 of a second quicker than Jason Hart, but time is not on his side, as you can see, under 5 minutes to go, but he'll keep digging. He's got that carrot right in front of him.
Paul Terry a year ago, 2nd in GT4 America Sprint Am, this year running in Pro-Am for a different team, this new WR Racing team. That's the co-driver to Brandon Davis.
Yeah, Terry's really enjoyed that transition over to the Aston Martin. I think it really suits him well. Put some great performances last year. A lot of competition, of course, but it's great to see him in Sprint X competition. I think Brandon Davis will just take Paul to the next level as well. Brandon's got a ton of experience now. Remember when he first started his career, he was leaning on more experienced drivers to learn his craft, and now he's able to do the same.
It's that circle of life, and it's neat to see, like you said, the young guys learning at the feet of masters. And 20 years down the road, we could be talking about the opposite, as we see Greg Leofouge making a pass on Toby Grahovic. So I think you're spot on there. Doesn't look like the balance is left in that car for Toby after that great first stint from McAleer to come storming through the field. You wonder if he just used up some of the stuff to try and get up to the front.
Some of that can be it. Some of it can just be the setup that you have for an hour duration race. It's just not going to have that longevity in terms of maintaining the balance. So they're very smart. The team is really good. Classic BMW, one of the best teams in our paddock, and certainly Toby and Stephen have the experience with the BMW to know what changes to make it a little bit more effective on the long run tomorrow.
Look at this, just 3 minutes and 15 seconds left, and this is the battle for Pro-Am honors in this race one of the weekend. Brandon Davis has just about run down Jason Hart on that last lap. The difference in lap time was nearly 1.5 seconds. In fact, it was over 1.5 seconds. So that Aston Martin is flying at the moment, headed down Madison Avenue with less than 3 minutes left in this race. Plenty of time to make the move.
Yeah, he's right there, so it's game on. A couple more laps here. I think that will be it. So 3 more, actually.
Not what Jason Hart wants to hear.
No.
Could their streak of 4 consecutive wins come to an end? A near perfect start to the season. Overall wins in each of the first 4 races. I think the overall honors are likely out of the equation, as Christian Shimshak now leads by over 4 seconds over these two. But this is for Pro-Am honors. This is big in the championship as well. If these positions were to flip, it's not a huge difference, but at least it helps Terry and Davis claw into that deficit rather than lose even more ground, as we see Hart go defensive in turn 1.
Yeah, well, it's a 14-point swing. There's 7 points between first and second, and you're basically bouncing that between the 2 cars, so it's huge.
Greg Leofouge is in the picture as well. That is not a... Actually, that is a class position, too. So top 3 in Pro-Am all together. Well, this could get interesting before it's all said and done.
You see it immediately gets a bit more edgy there. Jason Hart feeling the heat, just trying to squeeze a little bit more out of the rear tires of that Porsche. It's going to be a good little chess match here. That Aston has a lot of pace. The BMW, if it gets close, it could make a move down into turn 14 brake zone on the final lap if he can get closer over this next lap. So it'll be this lap plus 1 more. They'll get the white flag next time by the stripe.
Just about 5 miles left.
Shimshak up front has gapped everyone here by 4.5 seconds, so he's in a nice safe zone right now. Should be able to bring it home. There you see him disappearing up the road.
Pumpelly up another spot for TRG on that last lap, not in class, but in the overall.
Love to know what happened between he and Oberlin, because you'd have to imagine that when they were running that close together and suddenly Oberlin drops a couple of spots, the elbows could have been out.
And Oberlin has dropped further, actually, to provide an update. Back to 13th now in the overall order, 9th in class. So something does seem to have gone awry for that car. But right now we focus on the fight for the Pro-Am lead. Jason Hart, winner of each of the first 4 races this season, along with Matt Travis. He's in the Porsche Cayman, just behind the blue, yellow, and red Aston Martin of Brandon Davis. And here comes Davis out of hog pen.
He's got the run. He's got to the inside, it looks like. It's kind of a dyno run down this front straightaway here. Who has the power?
White flag from Tom Hansing. 1 lap to go on the defensive. Jason Hart, Greg Leafouche lurking in the background in the Cameron Racing BMW.
Could this help out Jason Hart? The fact that Leafouche is there. Certainly Brandon Davis has to look behind as well.
This is your Pro-Am podium. Davis slips a little bit wide.
Different line there that Jason takes, very shallow angle, a lot of entry speed, loses a little bit on exit but maintains it. That's critical. He's just ticking the boxes. You've got to tick about 3 more important boxes to finish this lap in terms of track position and maintaining the line.
This is 5A, 6, and 6A, known as Snake. Then we get into the climbing S's and down towards Oak Tree. Is that the next best or possibly the last best chance?
Well, if you want to get super aggressive, but typically you're going to be some tears there because it's very tight through that sector. Look for Leafouche to make a big move down the back straightaway. Just need to tidy up this end of this lap here and be close enough. Unfortunately for him, he's lost 2 or 3 car lengths. That could be critical and pivotal in terms of making a move. Nice job by Jason Hart there, really hitting his marks well. Execution is perfect now. It's all about just looking in that rear view mirror and positioning that Porsche. Watch that BMW start to come on strong.
Snaking down Madison Avenue, trying to break the draft. It is the BMW of Leafouche coming into the picture, battling for second. That's the overall leader just ahead, Christian Shimshak. Up the inside comes Leafouche, trying for the 2-for-1. Falls back in line. He makes the pass on Davis, who tries to come back.
Everyone absolutely on the limit. Beautiful last lap there by Jason Hart, really maximizing sector 2 to get that gap. Great run by Leafouche. Brandon Davis giving it all.
Here we go into Hogpen for the final time. Then the drag race to the checkered flag. Christian Shimshak, Kenny Murillo, they will win overall. Jason Hart trying to hold off Leafouche in the BMW. There's Shimshak taking the checkers. Jason Hart, Leafouche, side by side at the stripe, and Jason Hart holds him off. The win streak remains intact. 0.121 seconds the difference between first and second. Brandon Davis settles for third.
Tasty little battle.
My goodness, that was fun. We get to do it again tomorrow. Here is Kevin Conway, the current leader in AM, trying to take a look at his closest competitor. That's right behind as well. That's Wickstrom on the charge. So that is that BMW just behind the Supra. Again, a drag race to the stripe. Can Wickstrom get it done in his debut?
Getting closer.
No, Conway holds him off. Conway and Jesbray win once again for Smooch Racing. But what a run from the Paul Sparta and Wickstrom team at Random Vandals Racing. They come home in second.
Tell you, another couple of 100 feet, I think the BMW would have gotten him. That was a great battle to the line.
Andrew Wickstrom in his debut with a nice run ultimately comes home in second along with Paul Sparta. But this is your overall winner for the first time all season long. It's a car other than the NOLA Sport pairing of Jason Hart and Matt Travis that take home overall honors. Kenny Murillo, who qualified that car second but dropped back quite a bit on the opening lap, had a nice recovery, and then Christian Shimshak got it done, ultimately emerging after a really nice duel with Toby Grahovic to take the lead and then was able to drive on. CrowdStrike fastest lap, by the way, belongs to Greg Leafouche here in the Stephen Cameron Racing car that came out of nowhere to finish second in Pro-Am and third overall.
Yeah, really showcasing the pace of the BMWs here. But again, you look at the manufacturers involved here. You've got the Mercedes winning from the Porsche, from the BMW, Aston Martin very much in the hunt. So it's a nice mix, and it was a great race. certainly a lot of moving pieces there coming together on the final couple of laps.
Final results up on the screen. Shimshak Murillo by 2.5 seconds over Hart and Travis. Then Leofouge and Quinlan. Nice effort out of those two to come home third overall, but second in class. Paul Terry, Brandon Davis looked like they might have a chance at a win. Instead, settle for third, and that could have championship implications. You were talking about the 21-point swing between first and second. First and third, obviously, it becomes even more stark.
Yeah, very much so. So their maximum score, 125 points from 5 races for the 47 NOLA Sport team. Brandon Davis certainly had his sights on eating into that lead that they had, but just falls a little bit shy with a great run from Leofouge at the end there.
Third podium of the season for Leofouge and Quinlan. Third in the opener at Sonoma, second in race 2 at Circuit of the Americas, and another runner-up finish here. They are third in the points coming in, but the battle between Quinlan and Leofouge and Davis and Terry was pretty tight for second, so that could have implications from that perspective there. As we look a little bit further down the running order, something went wrong, it appears, for Bill Oberlin, because he was on the charge, and ultimately he and James Walker have to settle for 16th.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if he had an off and had some issues or whether he just fell off the pace due to a technical issue on the race car, but the lap before he's right on Pompelli's tail and then suddenly just started to plummet down the order. So they'll be disappointed on the back of a very strong weekend here last year. Oberlin also went fastest yesterday in the evening session, so I think they were looking for a lot more here today.
Now have a chance to try and salvage something on the weekend tomorrow. How about it, too? Our AM class came down to less than 0.2 of a second. Same can be said for Pro-Am. These two ultimately dominated in silver to some degree. Next closest silver competitor was Grahovic, who finished 5th overall, nearly 10 seconds behind. But, man, everywhere you looked during that race, Calvin, you had somebody fighting somebody for position.
It gets complex as well with the different classes with equal pace, so that's what makes it fun. I mean, you got 3 classes, but they all in a mix at certain times of the race. They all have the same pace.
Well, the other thing that's going to be interesting tomorrow is it was the second driver that qualified, so this field is going to be all mixed up, all reshuffled when we turn them loose for the second race of the weekend, and it's led to some kind of topsy-turvy results one day to the next so far this year.
Well, it's a flip in the strategy. You got the pros essentially should be the faster drivers starting the race tomorrow. They're typically going to extend that pit stop window to the end, so they kind of try and create as much of a gap as you can, and then it's just hanging on for the ends when they get behind the wheel.
Let's go down to Victory Circle and Amanda.
Well, Kenny Murillo's mom is going to be receiving a trophy for her 50th birthday present. How do you think that will be received?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a big family effort, and, you know, it's a huge support system. I can't thank everybody enough. Christian drove an amazing stint. Just had to give the car over in one piece, which is pretty hard to do on the first lap, and you know, I knew that he could do it, and just incredibly grateful for the opportunity, and yeah, just nothing else to say. Thank you so much to Mercedes, Pirelli, and VIR always puts on a good show, so happy to be here.
Well, Christian, you guys had issues in race 1 at COTA. How satisfying is it to open up an event weekend with a win?
I would say it's quite satisfying. It's better, but it's an improvement over COTA. Now we're happy. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can't argue with that logic. It is indeed better. And that's exactly what they've done. What a pairing those two have turned into. They ran together on a limited basis back when Shimshak and Matt Fosnot were doing the Sprint X East a couple of years ago. They ran a couple of the West races with Shimshak and Kenny Murillo. And I think all of us had to stop and take notice of how fast Kenny is, and he's only gotten better.
Yeah, and I think for Christian, you see young talent like Kenny Murillo really hasn't been given the ultimate opportunity to continue with his driving career. And when Matt's seat was available, Christian was nice enough to say, well, let's stick Kenny in here and see what we can do in immediate results. So I'd say more extremely satisfying than quite. I'd be a bit more
back down to the pit lane. We'll see how satisfied the rest of our winners are.
Well, Matt, I did do some follow-up work for the 17th anniversary. The gift is typically furniture. How does a trophy fit into that?
Wow. I don't even know, but did you just tell my wife she can have furniture? Because you are not helping me here at all.
Not on the effort. Well, another new member of a family receiving a trophy is going to be baby girl Whitney. What makes this one different?
Well, this one's big, right? So Whitney's watching at home with her sisters Marlo and Adelaide, my wife Ashley, and probably my mom Paulette. And to win it on her first race that she watches is pretty amazing. I attributed some of it that before Matt in the car, I put a kilo of Columbia's finest underneath his seat, and I told him I was calling the cops. I really hope he doesn't snort those Fruit Loops.
I can't with these guys.
Oh, the movie references, they never stop with these two. They're digging up some new ones for us here, Calvin, and might be digging us a hole as well. But congratulations to both Jason Hart and Nat Travis. Incredible win streak to start the year. I don't know what it is about the way they start seasons, but they need to bottle this for the middle and the end, because that's where it's been a problem. But, you know, you look at the results they've had, and it's been a rotating cast finishing second and third behind them. This is a really sizable lead that they've built.
They do, and I think it comes down to the preparation of the team. They come out of the box strong every single year. Travis and Hart, they're ready to go, and it seems like everyone else kind of has to get into their rhythm and get their season going. So we'll see what happens. Maybe third time's a charm.
Let's hear from our AM winners as well with Amanda.
Well, Ryan, I was able to witness John's anxiety on that last lap. You guys got it done. How's the relief now?
It's amazing. It came down to the last lap, and it was super nerve-wracking. We saw him go into turn one just about a second and a half behind, and I thought he was getting past, but he held on to first and came home for the win.
Well, Kevin, you're at the helm of that last lap. Describe it to us.
Well, we saw the BMW coming. We knew that he had pretty good pace, and we were just trying to catch traffic a little bit better. But unfortunately, got held up a little bit. Got a lot closer than we would have liked. But this entire Smooth Racing team and this GR Supra GT4 was amazing. And can't say enough about this kid. It's only he's a year and a half of racing, no experience, and to be able to do what he's doing in a competitive series like this is just a testament to his natural talent.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Kevin's right. I mean, to qualify fourth overall, that's what John Jesbray did in this field here today. Just a year and a half of racing experience. No karting, nothing like that. Straight into MX-5 Cup last year and now into GT4 cars. And I think we might have a star in the making.
Yeah, special talent, a lot of speed, and great result for that team today.
Highlights of the race today. Kenny Murillo, outside pole sitter. Look at him get shuffled back here. All of the BMWs, we talked about their straight line speed throughout the race. They put it to use, and he was just under assault from the Bavarian car maker, it seemed like, right from the get-go.
You can see there, drops 3 positions, 2-3 BMWs by the time he exits turn 3.
Bit of a wild ride there for, I think that was Tim Barber. This was an interesting moment. Round goes one of the TRG cars, and back onto the track, Jim Rappaport, one of the drivers in that lineup. Here we go. Battle for position there at the time. That must have been after the pit stops. John Allen taking over after a great first stint from Chris Wilson, and now you see Allen plugged in, and suddenly the pros in the pro lineups are starting to come through.
Yeah, just a lot of switching around between the 3 classes, and great run here. Just set him up nicely. Little twitch there by Toby, and Christian just pounces and grabs that lead.
That was for the overall lead at the time. Then Hart had to battle it out with Toby Grahovic for second. Ultimately got the better of that. But this was the fight for the lead down Madison Avenue on the final lap. Second place in Pro-Am, switching from Davis to Leofouge, and that provided the gap that Hart needed, and just enough, as Shimshak comes across the line, winning by a comfortable margin. But look at the drag race behind.
Yeah, another lap, maybe it would have been a different story. I mean, that BMW is a nice little ledge in the real critical areas of this racetrack to make a move, and Jason Hart is celebrating. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
Smiles all around, plenty of happy faces from our winners, and can't wait to see what race 2 holds in store for us tomorrow in Pirelli GT4 America here at Virginia International Raceway.